that's what it's true. So yeah, so what would happen is the
Thing
cotton
is, he's making
would be added to water.
papers.
So originally this cotton would have been clothing and the water would have been what came out of the cave. That's why the mill came here.
Yeah.
And then what we'll
Guys,
do-
so he will make a paper. He will mix the papers.
We have two things. This is called a mould and this is called a decal. And it's a bit like a sieve, very fine wire mesh on a hard wood surround with pine behind.
Okay.
Alright.
So what is in there then? What is
So
it?
it's cotton fibre
Cotton
and
fiber.
water.
Oh.
But as I say, originally when it was a working mill, the cotton would have come from the clothing and this water would have come out of the cave directly. Now they would have heated the water because the water's about 10 degrees centigrade in that cave. So
Okay.
when it got into the mill, this, what I'm showing you, would have happened in that tank on the floor.
Yeah.
So originally they had little fires beneath them just to take the edge off the water.
Yeah.
But as electricity was put into the mill, then they had like almost like a kettle element to the cycle, yeah? So what you do is you pop the two bits into the tank and catch the cotton.
Oh.
Okay. So this process was done by a person called the vat man. The vat man worked at the tank called the vat.
Wow.
Alright? They were the most skilled, and to do this properly, they trained for 7 years. They actually had a 7-year apprenticeship, because the thing about it is when you're making, let's say, 500 sheets, there aren't any like measurements on this thing. We don't, I mean, that what I did now would be different from what I did before, because I'm not a vat man, but the vat man was so skilled, he knew exactly how much was on there.
For the thickness of it.
Yeah. So the thickness of paper that was required for that day.
Yeah.
And then the next stage, this was done by a second person called a kucher. Now the kucher would stand behind that sort of greyish metal panel and stick the paper kuching. So what you would do is you'd roll it down, and then it rocks from side to side, lift off.
Oh,
there
wow.
you go. There's your paper.
Oh, right.
And that's how they made it. Now this would have to be put in a press, and they wouldn't make one at a time. They'd make 100. The whole thing, like a sandwich, was put into a press and come back out, and then the paper would be a little bit drier, meaning you could peel this off.
Yeah.
And that's how they separate the paper from the blankets, and then it would go off to dry.
So the paper and the blankets went into the press.
Yes, yeah. So we've kind of tried to create it down there. So on the bottom, you've got like a sort of like, looks like a mixture of paper, sheets and blankets. Once that got to 100, that's the alarm for doing paper making. That would go into there and come out, and then when it had been pressed, the paper would be taken away and sent to another part of the mill to dry. And they would dry it by putting them in little sort of bundles of like usually 5 sheets, and they'd hang them on ropes. Now obviously this is just one sort of piece here, but what you have is a whole lot from the top to the bottom. And the rooms that happened in are when you go through here. So when you go through to the play barn area, the penny arcade, and even the gift shop, they were all drying lofts.
Oh.
And you'd have the paper hanging from up there all the way down. It could take up to 5 days to dry, and then when it came down, it would be very uneven, so you'd have to press the paper to get it flat.
They're very good, isn't it? They're
It's a
very
long
creative.
process.
Yeah. Oh.
In total, it will take 3 months from a piece of rag coming in that end and a very finished piece of paper going that way. It would be 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A lot of it was the cutting and the grinding, I suppose. There was quite a lot of, and the boiling would take 12 hours overnight. And that's what, if you've been in the Diving Museum, that's what that round thing is in the corner.
Ah, right, okay.
That's a boiler that they used to use to boil the rags down. Looks like a submarine, but it's not.
That's good.
But that's what they used to do. The other thing with the banknote ones, this one here.
Is that the big one then?
Did you see that one? That's how the watermark was put in. So this would have been sent
New
off to the Bank of
Zealand,
New
yeah.
Zealand, yeah. And this one we think was for a book, because this one's back to front. If it was folded that way, you would have the right image. So we think it was for maybe a book or something.
Okay.
While this was
Yeah, it
backwards.
looked like a book. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the cotton, This is hemp. I don't think they made a lot of hemp. I mean, in the latter years when it was
That's
a
what
tourist
it would.
attraction.
That one the man says made and finished like that.
Yeah, that's the cotton there.
Oh, is it?
This
Yeah,
one.
Oh.
yeah.
That's
This one
cotton
is hemp.
paper.
So this is made of this stuff here.
Oh, it's a different color. It's like a little bit brown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the one
you,
is
you would-
lighter.
You would add this to it. This is what that's made from. And then this one is made from the denim
Oh.
to get the colour.
Ah, that's why the color.
Yeah.
We can now make some paper out of all the leftover jeans.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It might take a few months to do it.
So,
Yeah, you
paper and cardboard, isn't it? The same,
can
is
only
it?
last about 3 months.
Yeah.
Paper and cardboard, isn't it?
Well, cardboard is just thicker paper, isn't
This
it?
one is this one. It's cardboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you for that.
That's all
Thank
right.
you
That's
for the
all right.
information.
But yeah, those tables came out of. Well, they are.
Yeah,
those
it's
ones
that
are-
one there.
Those tables are in that photograph somewhere. The lady sitting there.
Ito yung ginagawang ano guys. Ito yung ginagawang ano. Dito pala pagawaan ng ano.
Heating process, any required color will
Papers.
be
Ayun,
added
sa
to
TV,
this
oh.
porridge-like mixture,
Magawa
which is
sila
the
ng
stuff.
paper.
Mold size to stop the paper from smudging or bleeding when ink is used.
Most of
The
these
stuff is
photographs
now
are about
dumped into the
90.
stuffed chest,
Somewhere
which
between
keeps it
19
well mixed
and
with its
1960,
rotating
I
handle.
think.
If it wasn't kept moving, the fibres would settle to the bottom. The vat, seen here, has the stuff from the chest churning around in it.
And this
The vat man uses a mold, his most important tool, which is made of mahogany with brass corners and edges and tough pine bars which support a double layer of phosphor bronze wire mesh. Molds are made in pairs, sometimes with a watermark, and are accompanied by a lighter frame called a decal, which fits snugly over the mold to form a kind of shallow tray. A watermark is a design of a picture in paper which becomes clear when held up to the light. The design is formed in copper wire, which is sewn with finer wire to the mesh. Any design on the mesh causes the stuff to be thinner in places, and when cooched, the watermark appears as a thin, distinct depression on the sheet. Holding the mold and decal together, the stuff is scooped from the vat, which is then distributed over the surface. He shakes it slightly from side to side and gives one final shake, which gets rid of any surplus stuff. This is called closing the sheet. Water drains quickly through the mesh and leaves a layer of wet fibre. And while he rests the mould, the vat man lifts the decal and slides his mould towards a man known as the coocher. He then rolls it from left to right and places the sheet face down onto a felt. The empty mould goes back to the vat man and the coocher covers the sheet with another felt. The pile which grows by his side is called a
Ganyan na
post.
pala yung
As
ginagawang
it's high
papel.
enough, the next step is the wet press, which puts pressure on the pile, squeezing water out until it's reduced to half its original size. When it's sufficiently pressed, the weight is released, and one by one the sheets of paper and felt are separated. The paper is still very damp. In fact, it's more than half water. It is now ready to be dried. From the vat house, the packs of paper make a journey to the paper loft. This area is made up of frames called looms, and they either have canvas or hessian trays of up to 3 yards square, or ropes of cowhide, over which packs of 5 are draped. They're left at the right temperature to dry, relatively slowly, which can take several
Like
days.
that. Then.
When dry, the next stop is the saddle or finishing room. Because the sheets are still rough and cockled, they must be flattened and smoothed by dry pressing, so they're fit for use. Techniques vary according to the results required from the paper, but generally they require a smooth finish and so must go to the glazing rollers. Sheets are interleaved with smooth copper or zinc plates and are then passed back and forth between cast iron rollers. All that now remains is for the paper to be carefully examined and sorted.
Galing
Any rejects and offcuts are recycled, so there's no waste. The paper sold in the shop at Wookey is packaged on site, so when you see
Ito guys, ginagawa nila pala tong ano, papel.
This is the original equipment and machinery.
How to make the
How to make
papers.
paper, yeah.
Yan pala guys, ang ginawa nilang papel. Yan o, nakalagay doon o. Basahin nyo yun o. Rags make paper.
Rags make paper, paper makes money, money makes banks, banks makes loans, loans makes beggars, beggars make rags.
Galing nila, no?
That's
Yan pala yun.
Yes, that one down there, that's what they would have used. So that photograph over there, that's downstairs where they're making the paper.
yeah.
This room is full of machines that ground down.
Ano guys, that video, they will show you the how they made the papers. Galing ah. Nagawa sila ng papel.
Where the owner of here in 1905, he treated
1610.
he paid, he had 250 employees,
Ganyan pala gumagawa ng papel.
and he paid them to go to the job on Saturday, and they were paid, and they went to Wookey, just on the road, got to Wales, the train to Western Superman there, and then a steamship was waiting. But in this mill, that was sent downstairs, and that's where they made the paper. And then the paper sheets, when they had been finished, would be brought up to this floor and dried through all the rooms through that side of the mill. Making about 2,500 sheets a day. Yeah. And a workforce of about 250 people. Which, you know, for this area would be quite a sizable employer. Yeah.
How to make handmade paper preparation.
Did you see how they do it?